Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the south side of Pittsburgh. Bob Pompiani, soon to be joined by Missy Matthews, as we recap a Steelers win in New York, 34-32 over the Jets. They come home to take on Seattle. So Mike Tomlin has a lot of stuff to get into because it was a high-scoring affair, something most people did not expect in week number one. Let's go to the head coach right now, who is ready for his weekly press conference.
Good afternoon. Man, it's really exciting to kind of get back and be in the grind that is the football season. Yesterday was a really good day. Today is a good day, man. Just feeling the rhythm of the process. Reviewing performance, learning from those reviews, and plotting a course for the next sequence, the planning, the prep, and then ultimately the play. Yesterday we met as a team and we looked at the Jet game. Certainly was a lot to learn from that performance. It's really good to learn while winning, and so I'm thankful that we did enough to win the game, but certainly there were some things that were indicative of week one like football. I thought in some instances we lacked in some fundamentals, some communication, and other things that can cause you to play less than stellar, particularly early in the season. I thought a real positive note is that we weren't highly penalized. I think we had 4 penalties in the game, and we really wanted to respect that component of it. Last week we prepared with an officiating crew at all of our practices. I think we benefited from that. I think we were one of the least penalized groups in the NFL last week. And so, there was certainly some week one things. We absorbed some attrition in the midst of play that kind of created more challenges. Deshaun Elliott being central there. Deshaun being an experienced member of our secondary in terms of being experienced in Pittsburgh. We had some big plans in terms of his usage and his role as a communicator. Certainly was not displeased with the efforts of Chuck Clark, but was highly concerned with a number of new Steelers in an in-stadium circumstance on the back end, having to communicate and some of those things. Offensively, I'd like to see us do a better job of protecting Aaron, particularly on play pass. As I mentioned after the game, you absorb certain risk executing play pass in an effort to get yards in chunks, but that risk shouldn't manifest itself in the form of multiple sacks like it did when you're prepared and good. And so as a staff and as a collective, we got to be a little bit better in that space. Certainly would like to run the ball more. We had 0 explosion runs of 10 yards or more. Didn't have enough runs in totality. The Jets had a lot to do with that. They possessed the ball. I think we had 25 minutes of time of possession, and so it affected us in those areas. I look forward to getting back to work in that space. On the defensive side of the ball, I didn't think we whipped enough blocks and made enough tackles specifically, and so those are fundamental things. We certainly will work to continue to get better there. I thought that was just kind of the story of it. We certainly can do some more things schematically to help the guys and will, but that's an easier endeavor once we gain more experience collectively and some continuity in that space. I did like, as I mentioned after the game, the ability to stay the course, man, and have the emotions and the continuity to make the necessary plays down the stretch. The 3 and out prior to the last possession might have been the biggest possession. We went on a 3 and out on offense just prior to that. We had to punt the ball away, and our ability to go 3 and out right there, particularly with a third down design quarterback run, to win that sequence and give our offense the ball back was as big as the final drive. And so, like their ability to stay the course and deliver in the weighty moments. You're not going to have a good team, and you're certainly not going to have a good defense if they can't do so. I thought all 3 phases displayed that over the course of the game in a variety of ways. Our ability to move the ball offensively on the front side at halftime I thought was critical. Certainly our ability to stop them at the end was critical, and certainly we had some timely plays in special teams, first and foremost with Boz doing what it is that he does. And so there's a lot to learn from that. We better learn quickly. as does everyone else, because week 2 is fast upon us, man. Excited about leaning in on prep for Seattle. I'll quickly give you an injury report. Derek Harmon can anticipate it to continue to be out this week with his knee. Deshaun Elliott, the same with his knee. Malik Harrison, the same with his knee. And so those are 3 guys that are potentially scheduled to be out as I sit here today. Joey Porter wasn't able to finish the game with a hamstring. Optimistic about his availability, but I'll let the quality of his work and the amount of his work during the week be our guide there. And really optimistic and hopeful about Nick Herbig being available for us this week. And so, as is always the case in ball, you step into a stadium, you lose some capable men, but we also are going to get some capable men back. And so we'll put together a collective that positions us to be at our best. As I'm sure you guys have mentioned, we have Jabril Peppers in the building. We'll be signing Jabril today and get him up to speed about what it is we'd ask him to do. Highly familiar with him, not only from his time as a Cleveland Brown, but scouted him heavily when he came out of Michigan. He's a football player first, positional player second. He's displayed position flexibility over the course of his career at either safety position, at rundown nickel. He's been a capable guy in the special teams space over the course of his career, covering kicks, returning punts. He's just a good, well-rounded football player. And so glad to add and have him in the fold. We'll see how we divide the labor up as we get into the week. Their ability to communicate and execute obviously will be a major component of how we divide that labor up and go from there. I'll start on Seattle a little bit. Defensively, they're a challenge. They got some talented people on all levels. I'll start first uniquely with their secondary. I think not only is their secondary the strongest position on the unit, but probably their strongest position on the team. They just have a very talented and deep group. I think that was on display last weekend. They play a lot of people. They played as many as 7 defensive backs in the game. There are several that make that a reality. First and foremost is Witherspoon. He plays outside at a high level. He plays nickel at a high level. You can say the same thing about Love at safety. He'll play on the back end at a high level. He's got really good instincts and ball skills. You'll see him down in and around the line of scrimmage. He had a sack this past weekend, particularly in some of their sub work when they get in dime. He's very capable around the line of scrimmage. Kobe Bryant is his safety partner back there. He was a Thorpe Award winner as a corner at the University of Cincinnati. Has made a nice transition to safety, and they form a really rock-solid tandem. Willem at the other corner opposite of Witherspoon is a height, weight, speed guy with some excellent ball skills. He played wide receiver for a couple of years at UTSA prior to coming into the league, and I think his interception production and ball skills really kind of give you an illustration of that history. At the linebacker level, 1-3, Jones, man, is their defensive play caller. Been really solid for them. They acquired him, I think, at the deadline last year from Tennessee. Got really good C to do and instincts. Gets from A to B, man. Had an awesome interception in that game last week. Is a really good blitzer. Has a real good, well-rounded game, and is a nice hub of communication in terms of tying all of those things together. Up front, man, they got a really talented group. Byron Murphy is a high-round draft pick out of Texas that's in his second year, man. Scouted him a lot. He's really talented. The acquisition of Leonard Williams maybe a year and a half ago at the trade deadline, I think, was a significant acquisition for them. Man, he's super talented. He's good versus the run. He's good versus the pass. They move him around. He'll rush centers, guards, and tackles. They play him on the edge at times even in one-dimensional passing moments. Lawrence is a big-time acquisition in free agency for them, who'll also play on the edge and has a very, very formidable resume in that space. And so, man, they got a good defense. Coach McDonald has been around. former Baltimore Raven, man. He's familiar with us. We're somewhat familiar with him. I see some of the parallels when I watched them play. When I watch Witherspoon play inside and out, it reminds me a lot of Marlon in Baltimore, for example. And so there's a lot of those parallels that you can make schematically as you lean in on this preparation, and we certainly do. But I also see contributions from others, man. Leslie Frazier is a savvy veteran coach in this game on the defensive side, and he's been out there with Coach McDonald as well. And you see some of Leslie's background from a schematic standpoint on their video as well. And so, you know, they got a well-rounded group. They got some really capable coaches. They're doing a nice job of mixing and expanding some schematics to create issues. And certainly at this early stage of the season, there's a concern from a strategy perspective on the other side, because there's always the element of the unknown. And we'll be in that mindset for a few more weeks, as will everyone else, until there's enough video evidence out there for people's comfort. That's just a component of September ball in this league. And so I'll slide to the offensive side of the ball. They got a group, man, that's really committed to running the ball. Coach Kubiak is their coordinator. Dennison is their line coach and kind of run game coordinator. They certainly have a history together. Although they're new to Seattle, they've been together. They were together in New Orleans last year. I think they were together in Minnesota in 2021. But Dennison certainly has a mode of operation. He and Kubiak work well together. There's a commitment to running the ball. They got two really good, capable runners. I think that was on display a week ago. But, you know, there's more evidence of that. Can't say enough about Walker and his pad level. His ability to finish. He's got a real good run posture and run demeanor. As I mentioned earlier, they certainly have a mode of operation. They're very good zone scheme blockers. They have guys up front that are really capable of moving well laterally, individually and collectively. They can capture gaps. They can cut off backside defenders. Their tackle tandem in particular is very talented. Their right tackle, they just redid on the extension. Their left tackle was a first rounder a couple years ago from Mississippi State. Zabel is a highly regarded rookie guard, probably the best guard in the draft. He's a plug and play type. And so they got a real good group up front. They got a mode of operation. They got two really good, capable runners. We certainly have some video on tape from last week that should excite them and create urgency in us as we prepare. In the passing game, obviously they acquired Sam Darnold, man, and this guy's just battle-tested, man. He's been in a lot of systems. In the midst of it all, moving around, he's continually improved over the course of his career. He makes quick and fluid decisions. He's good with the ball. He takes care of the ball. He moves his unit, and that's why they had the type of success that they had with him in Minnesota a year ago, and why they won as a football team. And so he certainly has our attention. His eligibles, Smith-Njigba, was targeted quite a bit last week. Not surprised. He's been developing and emerging since he's been in the league, and it's time for him to be that. And certainly the acquisition of Cooper Kupp helps. You talk about a savvy route runner, a guy that's really experienced and savvy at finding spaces versus zone and showing patience and losing people at the top of the route and winning versus leveraging man. He's made a career of that. And so there's a lot of things that have our attention, but more importantly than anything else, man, it's week 2, and it's our first time at that 7-day cycle, and I'm excited about doing it at home in Acrisure in front of Steeler Nation. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, did you go into the Jets game with an aggressive game plan, wanting to use your new toys, or did the flow of the game kind of dictate?
A little bit of both. Certainly, when you acquire talent, it's our job to utilize that talent, and particularly utilize that talent in spaces where it's in their wheelhouse. And certainly that was a goal last week, and that's a goal every week, to be quite honest with you. And then secondarily, we've always got to be willing to adapt and adjust based on how games are unfolding and how matchups may dictate that. Sometimes you might have a mindset about approaching the game a certain way, and a counter strategy might alter that. We weren't certain whether or not Sauce Gardner was going to travel with DK, for example, where it didn't take long to realize that he did. And so you make plans, whether he does or he doesn't. You see what's going to happen, and then you go down the line accordingly.
Mike, building off of that, specifically about DK, you guys got a couple run after catch explosions from him throughout the course of the day. Was that by design thinking going in, or is that just kind of the nature of how those plays manifested?
Both again. DK is big and fast. You certainly want to get the ball in his hands. He's certainly capable of being a tough tackle in the secondary once he does. And so it's our job to get him the ball in spaces where those talents show. And sometimes it's quick hitting passes, particularly early in the game. I think it was the first third down of the season. They pressured us. We were able to distribute the ball to him quickly. He was able to make a would-be tackler miss and go down the sideline for roughly 25 yards. I think those are indications of why we acquired him.
Just sticking with DK for a second, everyone knows he's big, physical, and fast. But what have you learned, or what's impressed you about his practice habits and the way that he works during the week?
Man, he is a professional. But I can't say that I was surprised by it. You do your research. You know, this is a small league in the big scheme of things, and certainly you know about the significant players, not only their talents, but their relationship with their game, their lifestyle, if you will, and all of those things were really positive components of his profile, and one of the reasons why we were really excited about acquiring him.
Mike, how would you evaluate Broderick's performance?
You know, certainly it could be better, but certainly all of our performances could be better. As I mentioned, our quarterback got hit too much, and he was a component of that.
Mike, do you worry about confidence with him at all?
I don't.
Why not?
Because it's football, you know. You don't get to the National Football League by being fragile emotionally. You know, there's a lot of confident guys that I work with. You win some battles, you lose some battles, you come back fighting. That's just the nature of the men that play this game at this level.
On the other side, how do you evaluate Troy Fautanu's first game action?
Just like Broderick, I thought he had some good moments. I thought he certainly could be better. As I mentioned, as a collective, we got a quarterback hit too often for my liking. And so we're back to the lab.
What went into Cole Holcomb not getting any snaps on defense?
You know, we're just playing to win the game. Certainly, if opportunity presents itself from a matchup standpoint, we're open to it, but we don't feel obligated for participation. This is not Little League football. We're going to simulate a group that we think is capable of winning certain matchups in certain moments, and certainly Cole has had a good process. We're happy to have him back from injury, and I'm sure he'll get an opportunity in the not-too-distant future.
What does Keanu have to do to do better at the nose tackle position? And is there any consideration of shifting around roles as far as who lines up over B gap versus A gap on the D line? Right?
No, there's no real strong consideration of moving people around at this juncture. And, you know, Keanu is expected to get better from game 1 to game 2 like everyone else. I think it's a reasonable expectation. At least it is for me. You know, I think once you've been in the stadium and you've played 60 minutes of football, you know something about yourselves that you didn't prior to going into it. And I think that knowledge, that experience individually and collectively is a catalyst for improvement between game 1 and game 2.
Mike, first time seeing Aaron play for this team in a game, just how do you assess how he did?
Man, I thought he was really good, man. I thought he was what we needed to be. But again, as I mentioned, I'm not surprised by that. I expressed my levels of confidence, if you will, leading into the game based on what I saw from him in preparation.
Mike, are either Harrison or Elliott candidates for injured reserve?
You know, I haven't even begun to think about that. They're in the building right now getting treatment. We'll make some of those type of decisions later in today or tomorrow, if you will. It's just normal business procedure at the top of the week.
Jabril Peppers signing a byproduct of Deshaun's injury, or does
Yes.
it add?
Like you talked about wanting to run the ball better. Do you feel like it was problems with blocking schematically, or your running backs? Where do you feel like is the biggest area of opportunity there?
You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't compliment the Jets, you know, and their players and their schematics had a lot to do with it. And again, as I mentioned, sometimes it's none of the above. Sometimes it's just lack of opportunity on how a game unfolds. We didn't possess the ball enough. I think we had 25 minutes of time of possession, and some of that time was done in a catch-up-like capacity, which changes your run-pass ratio, if you will.
You talked about
Peppers has made a lot of plays against you guys over the years. Which one stands out to you?
Man, I don't know, to be quite honest with you. I did so much work on him in the draft. I think maybe his Michigan plays probably stand out more than his professional plays. He was just used in a real unique way in Michigan that really highlighted his talents, man. I think he was even a two-way player at one point. He played linebacker-like in some of their bare-structured fronts. He returned kicks. He was just a well-rounded football player in all areas of the game.
Like you talked about protecting Aaron Rodgers. How is Seattle a different challenge with some of their simulated pressures versus a team like the Jets that's more just blitz-centric?
I don't know that they are. I think everyone is still kind of defining who they are at this juncture. The game unfolded uniquely last week in terms of Seattle and San Fran. It became rock'em sock'em robots, heavy run game, and things of that nature. And so I'm sure they had some things from a blitz perspective that they didn't have an opportunity to get off. And so I'll reserve judgment on some of that.
What specifically are you looking for from your run defense coming in?
I want us to be stouter.
You mentioned some of the physical elements of that in your open, trying to get off blocks better, make tackles better. Are there some pre-snap schematic assignment duties that need to be sharpened up as well? Like, for instance, I don't know, the fields run in the goal line situation.
Yeah, I don't know if it's schematic duties per se as it has to do with recognition or anticipation. I just think there's an element of the unknown early in the season that slows you down from a collective play speed perspective, from a communication perspective, and I think it's reasonable to expect all those things to improve.
You've talked a lot about whipping blocks, the importance of that, but as far as sometimes absorbing block when it's like a double team, it's keeping other guys clean. What do you guys have to do better at that to help?
It's all wrapped up in the same discussion.
Would you have drafted Peppers?
I don't want to take picks that high. That requires you to lose a lot of games.
I think he was picked 25th, wasn't he?
Oh, I don't know. I just assumed it was earlier than that. Okay.
Mike, Roman had a big preseason, only 10 snaps on Sunday. Was that more of just a byproduct of what you guys were just,
And lack of possession of the football and, agenda relative to that day. As I mentioned after the game, I got no intentions of explaining the minutia of rep distribution week in and week out. We got a really good collective, in some instances highly specialized skill sets, and so in some weeks those skill sets are going to be highlighted and utilized. Some weeks they're going to be minimized. It's just a component of winning football games in today's NFL and really don't require a whole lot of explanation.
Mike, Carl Dunbar talked about this on draft night. He really thought YA could do well over guards and tackles as opposed to nose. What is it about his game that why is it that way, and can you envision him someday taking on snaps at nose?
Certainly. He can play snaps at nose because he's a big man. He's able to absorb double teams and not be moved. He's capable of playing at further distances, greater distances from the ball because of his length and his ability to cover spaces with that length and keep people off of his body and play the backside of runs and things of that nature. And so that's what Dunbar was talking about when he highlighted his levels of excitement.
Do you have a sense that this game has any extra significance for DK going against his former team?
I haven't talked to him about it whatsoever. I don't know that I've seen him since we got off the airplane and got back here in a one-on-one-like capacity. But common sense would tell you that it certainly does. They drafted him. He played there a number of years. Whether or not he will acknowledge it is up to him.
The season opener is one thing. The home opener is a different. What are your thoughts just on Steeler Nation being able to first see this offense for the first time in this season?
I'm always excited to play within the comforts of Acrisure in front of our fans. They're a source of inspiration for us. They're certainly a source of challenges for those that we compete against, but we also respect the challenge that it creates for us. From a defensive perspective, we have to work with crowd noise this week to make sure that our communication and so forth is on point as they create a hostile environment for our opposing offense.
Mike, you talked about the length of Wyatt Black, but what can Broderick Jones do to better use his length? He's one of the longer armed, bigger body guys in your offensive line, especially when it comes to pass protection?
I don't think that length is an issue in terms of his game, in terms of the areas of get better. It is an asset.
I was hoping to get a clarification, a better understanding of that rule that Ramsey got flagged for. In theory, is a player in open space like that supposed to be able to go through a blocker to get to a ball carrier? Is he allowed to do that, or is it incumbent on him to avoid?
If we're talking about the rule is obviously you can't cut in open grass. In regards specifically to the play, I've had zero communication with the NFL office in terms of their interpretation of the rule. I understand the rule, I just simply didn't think it applied to him in that circumstance. I thought he stepped around it, that would-be blocker, and skinned himself and went in for a low tackle. And so that's why I disagree with the call. But I've had zero conversations with the league office regarding their interpretations of the play.
Mike, with so many first-year acquisitions making a huge impact in the game against the Jets, what were your conversations like with Omar after the game, and was there a little bit of extra chest bump because of these new guys playing such a...
I'll keep communication between Omar and myself, between us. I don't know that it helps us to be transparent in that way, but our communication was normal, assessing what transpired in the game, particularly from an injury and player availability standpoint, and making some initial decisions about how to move forward for this week's challenge.
Calvin Austin had a touchdown, also a combat catch. Obviously dealt with injury for some of the preseason. Where have you seen him grow into where he is now?
He's grown in all areas, to be quite honest with you. He's a guy that was really limited in his rookie year due to injury. And in spite of that, saw dramatic improvement between year one and year two. And he's such a good professional and has such a good relationship with the game. It's reasonable to expect that to continue. DK gets a lot of attention, schematic attention, personnel attention, and so it created some real opportunities for Calvin, and I know he's game and ready for that.
What was the thought process behind the competition committee allowing the kickers to process or manipulate the kicking ball beforehand, and do you think that will help or has helped the ball?
I have zero idea, to be quite honest with you. I'm certainly not a kicking specialist. I'm certainly not a ball treatment specialist. I leave that between Boz and our equipment personnel. I'm aware of the rule that you mentioned, but I've been in this league long enough that I've seen it evolve and come back. When I first got into the league, the guys used to handle and treat the balls and so forth, and then we kind of moved away from it, and now we've kind of moved back to it. And I think that's with a lot of discussions in the National Football League, having been in the league a long time. Things happen in cycles, schematic concepts, get really trendy and then they go away and then they come back. And same thing with the points of emphasis and rules at times. And that's just the lens through which I see it because I've been on the committee a long time and certainly have been in the league a long time.
Mike, when you brought in Kenneth Gainwell, did you envision him being as kind of a big part of your offense, and why is he such a good fit for what you did?
We did, and we did because we had real evidence. We've played against him, and he's made some plays against us. We played him in Philly a year ago, man. Those third down conversions that he made were a significant component of the game. They were. They threw the ball to him on swings with very little risk. He won some one-on-one circumstances and converted. Allowed drives to stay alive, put points on the board. He was also a very viable special teams player for them. A year ago, I think he had 6 or so tackles on their kickoff unit, and so I wasn't surprised by that playmaking component of his game. Maybe his talents were minimized because of the talents of those around him. I mean, he did play with Saquon. And so, those are some of the things that went into the excitement around his acquisition.
Mike, when it comes to you guys' run game, you didn't get to test it out too much with the full first team in the preseason, and then, as you said, circumstances kind of limited what you guys could do in week one. How do you chart as a coach the path forward for this group to find its footing in the run game?
It's business as usual. It is. We look at the teams that we play against. We see what they do well individually, what they do well schematically. We formulate a base plan and we build from there. Nothing changes. Certainly in week two, there's less speculation in some of that. But we have a process, but everybody has a process that leads from preparation, planning to preparation to play.
Anyone else? All right.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin at his press conference. Bob Pompiani along with Missy Matthews, and a busy one in terms of injuries, and it prompted a move today. As you heard Coach Tomlin talk about it, Jabril Peppers will be signed here, and that is obviously in reaction to the injury to Deshaun Elliott, one of a couple injuries they had.
Yeah, the Deshaun Elliott one really hurt them in game. He's that hub of communication. He was here last year. There's a reason why they gave him an extension with that knee injury. Coach Tomlin said he will be out this game. Once again, Derek Harmon will be out with a knee injury, and Malik Harrison, who was also hurt in game. Optimistic, though, about Nick Herbig, who missed the first game with a hamstring injury, and Joey Porter Jr., who was also injured in game.
Yeah, you never know about some of those soft tissue injuries, especially early in the season. Sometimes they can linger. But if Herbig could get back, that's certainly a plus when it comes to the edge rushing situation there. We have a lot to get into, and we will. Talking about Mike Tomlin and his comments concerning Seattle, concerning about some of the things that happened in that Jets game, good and bad. We'll get into it as we continue here on a Tomlin Tuesday. We're live on KDK Plus and Steelers digital platforms. We'll be right back.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
Allowed your guys to persevere through all the ups and downs in this game?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. You're an NFL player, you know. Mike talks about standard of play and the way you're supposed to handle adversity, and we had a tough training camp, physical training camp, practicing midday in the heat. So, you know, I expect our guys to be mentally tough in those situations.
Obviously, you have so much experience in a final drive situation, but does it become any more challenging? First game with a new team, playing a preseason game, lack of familiarity?
I mean, it's still football. We got hosed on a call there that would have been able to run the clock out probably, but Boz bailed us out with an amazing kick. So it was a good team win. A lot of new guys, you know, made some plays. You know, Kenny made some plays. Johnny made some plays. Jalen on defense. So proud of our guys. Just one game though.
Did you feel any emotions, Aaron, coming back here, seeing guys from the Jets, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I still have a lot of people that I have fond feelings for, and so pregame I saw a few of the guys. Got to see Tyrod. I love Tyrod. What a great guy. Saw Quincy, Jamie. You know, there's so many guys that I really enjoy there. Both the young backs they got and Breeze. So it's nice to see those guys.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about to them. The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh, my TJ.
This defense is swarming.
It is kicked off. What a catch. Wow. Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers.
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
Offensively, you know, I'd like to see us do a better job of protecting Aaron, particularly on play pass. As I mentioned after the game, you absorb certain risk executing play pass in an effort to get yards in chunks, but that risk shouldn't manifest itself in the form of multiple sacks like it did when you're prepared and good. And so as a staff and as a collective, we got to be a little bit better in that space.
Welcome back. So we're talking about Aaron Rodgers and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He did a wonderful job just with his ability to understand what's going on out there, identifying defenses and then making the progressions and finding open receivers. And he did that all day, but also he did take some hits. And there were 4 sacks in that game. One of them, Missy, you recall, was like a high-low thing where I said, is he going to get up from that? And that is a concern, certainly. Mike Tomlin addressed it, but it has to get better because you don't want to see your quarterback, any quarterback, especially a 41-year-old, get that kind of treatment.
His first play, on offense, he was sacked. And you knew that those guys, especially their edge guys for the Jets, were going to go after him the way they were playing defense. Aaron Glenn taking over as head coach for that team. I do agree, though, protecting him is something that needs to happen and happen quickly, especially this week against the Seattle Seahawks for the home opener. I do think even, that last drive, being able to even get the ball down there, that one call that didn't go Calvin Austin's way. I know Aaron was upset about that after the game, but being able with DK to get it just enough for Boz to kick the 60-yarder, that field goal obviously extremely important. And I thought, as you said, he kept getting knocked down, but he kept getting back up, super poised, very calm the entire time. There were no highs and lows going on. I think even though, with some of those touchdowns, especially the first one going to Skoranek, it probably wasn't on your bingo card either.
No.
Excited for these guys that he has really embraced and gotten to know on and off the field since becoming a Steeler.
Yeah, I think Skoranek on that play, we saw it earlier, he was kind of the lost man. People in that secondary didn't look at him. He was wide open. Austin made some great plays too. And it's just the ability of Rodgers to understand where to go with the football. Even though he's thrown off his back foot, 1 foot, he still has that arm. Missy, I'm sure you've seen that over the course of the training camp where the arm is still very, very much a weapon.
Yeah, and I think anybody who came to Latrobe saw that. I know Coach Tomlin has talked about it, and it did feel like because he didn't play in a preseason game, even a series, people weren't believing that he would be ready for this. And, we were talking off air, you're going against your former team. Of course, he was only there 2 seasons. It's not like it's Green Bay. I think that will be a different situation, although it's not at Lambeau. But I think he, had some people that he wanted to prove wrong. They didn't want him anymore. It was the first time he was, quote unquote, a free agent. And I think he has been, all in on trying to figure things out and getting to get this offense to a place where, scoring on the opening drive. Not something we are used to seeing, even over 30 points. It feels like that has been hard to do in some recent years on both of those accounts.
You'd have to go all the way back to 2016 to find a season opener where they scored over 30, and that was against Washington, I think. But that was a breath of fresh air for an offense that had struggled in the first quarter for pretty much every game last year. But also, you mentioned you're playing against your old team. Aaron Rodgers certainly didn't say anything all week, but afterwards he got his shot in when he needed to. And this week it's DK Metcalf. I assume he's going to do the same thing. He won't talk about it as a special game, but down deep, he's going to go up there. And boy, we saw some of those plays he made, especially the yak yard plays where he gets it and turns it, makes one step, makes the guy miss, and then 25 yards later, he can turn it on.
Oh, yeah. You really saw that against the Jets. And again, things we've seen throughout training camp. That's why the Steelers aggressively went after him with Seattle to trade for him, giving up a second-round draft pick, which to the Steelers is a very valuable resource in terms of how they like to build their teams. I'm not so sure which approach DK is going to take. I think Aaron is more cautious of what he says. I feel like DK sometimes, can maybe say things that maybe he shouldn't. So I'm excited to see how he approaches this week. But as you said, no matter what, that this means something.
Especially because it's the home opener. He'll be part of this for the very first time. Calvin Austin, we can talk about him too, as his level of progression has really gotten better and better since last year into this year. People keep talking about number 2. So far, he's the guy who says, okay, don't forget about me. I'm Calvin Austin. I'll get open. And the play calling also, I thought Arthur Smith did a great job.
Right. We saw a jet sweep that ended in a touchdown, to Jonnu Smith. It was something that jet sweep was something that made Steelers fans kind of start to shake when they heard those words. But I think in terms of Calvin Austin, he was hurt, during training camp, didn't see him in the preseason. So maybe that is why people forgot him. But Aaron Rodgers has not, stopped talking about him. Even Roman Wilson, somebody that I think will get more and more involved. But they used a lot of different eligibles, a lot of the new toys, as Coach Tomlin calls them, in terms of getting this offense going.
One of the reasons why perhaps you didn't see Roman Wilson is he said 25 minutes of time of possession, there were simply not enough opportunities there. Maybe we'll see more of him because he did have a good training camp for sure. We'll continue our discussion after Mike Tomlin's press conference. Steelers get ready for Seattle coming up 1 o'clock, Acrisure Stadium on Sunday. Back with more right after this.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
It is picked off. What a catch! Wow! Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers!
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
I think they brought a nickel pressure there with action to it, so not too surprised. Just part of play action football, keepers, stuff like that. So
you were on the ball all day. I mean, maybe the biggest play was that fumble recovery that kind of changed the momentum of this game. You just talk a little bit about how that unfolded.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to recover the fumble without Kenny G. So great play by him. But like I was saying earlier, in Pittsburgh, PA, we play all three phases: offense, defense, special teams. So we knew one of the phases had to make a play to change the game, and it happened right there. And then obviously Boswell knocked in that 60-yarder.
I know a lot of people bust your chops for your rapport with Aaron. What's it being you to catch his first touchdown?
I don't know. Maybe all that custard we got at in Latrobe every night. Maybe it paid off a little bit. I forget the name of the place we went, but we went every night together. But it was great. Glad to have him as a Steeler. It's fun playing with him. Like I said, everyone's an option when he's back there with the ball.
Today, clicking pretty much.
I said it on Wednesday. I said it's gonna be exciting. Yeah, 34 points. A little help from Boz there. It was great. There's obviously some plays that we left out there, but for the most part, week one, it was awesome output.
What does 8 mean to this offense and this team? It seemed like, early on, you guys connected on a couple third and long.
Yeah, it means a lot. He harps on the details, and he's always great. And I'm happy that we were able to come back here and get a win for him. And he played great, and it was great for the offense to have a guy like that.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
Certainly it could be better, but certainly all of our performances could be better. As I mentioned, our quarterback got hit too much, and he was a component of that.
Like, you worry about confidence with him at all?
I don't.
Why not?
Because it's football, You don't get to the National Football League by being fragile emotionally. There's a lot of confident guys that I work with. You win some battles, you lose some battles, you come back fighting. That's just the nature of the men that play this game at this level.
Mike Tomlin talking about Broderick Jones, who did not have a good day at the office, moving from right tackle to left, his natural position. 3 sacks allowed, 4 pressures, and that's what Mike was alluding to about getting your quarterback hit too much. That has to improve, certainly, but it was first game back there after moving from right to left, natural position. I expected more, but as he said, he's not lost confidence, and I don't think you can after 1 week.
Yeah, I think, we saw some of the struggles early last year. Obviously, Troy Fautanu getting hurt kind of switched where things were going in terms of Broderick and Troy and what they wanted to do Fautanu's rookie year. But I think all eyes have been on those tackles. Going all the way back to OTA's minicamp, especially with Troy coming off of an injury into Latrobe preseason games. So I do think that it is something that clearly needs to improve, as you said, with a 41-year-old quarterback in general. So hopefully there's some adjustments that Pat Meyer, the offensive line coach and company, can make to help them out a little bit, and especially as you start, looking at some of the games that are coming up and the defenses that they'll be facing.
The other thing is the offensive line responsible for opening up holes in the run game, and the run game numbers weren't that good. Again, it could be lack of possession time, but when you average 2.7, I know Mike Tomlin does not like that number. The Jets, on the other hand, ran it almost at 5 yards a clip. So the offensive line, not just in pass blocking, but they have to open up more holes, and that whole level of game has to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw a little bit of Jalen Warren trying to get involved. Obviously, a lot of Kenny Gainwell and even Caleb Johnson here and there. But agree, that's something that, when Arthur Smith took this job and came to Pittsburgh, it was to be physical, to run the ball. And that was something that we didn't necessarily see. As you said, only 25 minutes for time of possession. Hard to sometimes do that. And also with Aaron Rodgers, he takes care of the football. He knows when to throw it and not. So you're kind of, in a catch-22 there.
But with Seattle coming in, it's another team that has a really good defense, and we saw that game last week against San Francisco. I think Mike Tomlin described it as rock'em sock'em, whatever it was, but it was that. And they would expect to bring that sort of a level of intensity to the Steelers' offensive line. And both sides of this, by the way, Seattle has a pretty decent offensive line. They're going to want to run the football as well. So the defense, which did not do a good job stopping the run, has to be better in that department.
Absolutely. And I think after the way the season ended last year, those were things that you wanted to see cleaned up and cleaned up quickly, especially with the pieces that they got. But also Derek Harmon didn't play in that game. So there were some things that went into that. But in terms of Seattle's defense, where their head coach came from, and what he likes to do. So I think, as Coach Tomlin was saying a little bit in his press conference, there are some parallels in terms of what he did with Baltimore and what they do in Seattle.
Yeah, Mike McDonald spent many years with the Ravens. He elevated himself to defensive coordinator, and then he gets this job last year. And they brought in some good players there. Byron Murphy, as Mike Tomlin talked about, was a good draft pick. DeMarcus Lawrence, he's a guy who's been around. Leonard Williams was a former high pick. I don't know how high, but it's high with the New York Jets. So they all have those guys there, so they're going to make it stout against them. But play action, even though last week that didn't work all that well for the Steelers in terms of running the football, it still worked in terms of Aaron Rodgers used it to go down the field.
Yeah, I mean, he knows how to sell it. I mean, and we were talking earlier just about how smart he is as a football player. As soon as he saw 12 guys on the field, he immediately, got the play off to catch them in that. So those are things that are also useful as they're starting to gain some ground and get this offense going to what they want it to be. Steelers will look to go to 2-0. Seattle comes to town this week, the first game at home this season. When we come back, we'll also talk about special teams, a big part of this win in East Rutherford. In fact, if they didn't have some of those plays, you wonder if they would have won that game because it was that close at the very end. We'll get into that and more as we continue on this Tomlin Tuesday right here from the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
Alex, I know you're on the other side. Do you get any sense of what Aaron means to the team, to the offense in general, and the team in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's one of the best to ever do it, and so he was out there doing his thing today, and a lot of guys. He's a great leader for us. He's always interacting with the guys. He's someone who, like a lot of guys, who. No, my fault. A lot of guys are attracted to him by the way that he leads, and so he's just someone that a lot of guys love playing for, and so he's going to continue to get better, and he's out there doing what he does, and so putting up 34 points was just huge, and I know they're going to continue to do that, but we just got to do our part.
Alex, as someone who was drafted by the organization and you're not here on a second contract, what does it mean to see a group of new guys come in, new Steelers, and kind of leave their mark on the team so early in the year to kind of all coalesce at the same time, and DK and Aaron and Jalen in this first game?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome seeing those guys coming and making plays for us. And all those guys are great players, and so all of them made great plays today. Aaron, of course, DK making great plays, and then Jalen I was making plays all over the field today. And so it's just awesome having guys that come in and buy into our culture. And like I said, you know, we do have a lot of new guys on our team, a lot of new guys on our defense. And so as we continue to gel, as we continue to get better, you know, those guys are going to continue to make plays for us.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
It is picked off. What a catch! Wow! Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers!
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
We played him in Philly a year ago, man. Those third down conversions that he made were a significant component of the game. They were. They threw the ball to him on swings with very little risk. He won some one-on-one circumstances and converted, allowed drives to stay alive, put points on the board. He was also a very viable special teams player for them. A year ago, I think he had 6 or so tackles on their kickoff unit, and so I wasn't surprised by that playmaking component of his game. You know, maybe his talents were minimized because of the talents of those around him. I mean, he did play with Saquon. And so, you know, those are some of the things that went into the excitement around his acquisition.
That's Mike Tomlin speaking glowingly on Kenny G, the Steelers version of Kenny G. Gainwell, who had a big impact in this game. Not just, you know, getting involved in the offense the way he did, and we would expect more of that, especially on third down, but special teams, he made the play, and without that, Steelers had just scored, they needed to get the ball back, they still trailed, and then they immediately turned the whole thing around.
Right, and especially with the fact that the Jets were able to possess the ball so long, too, and Justin Fields and company were taking advantage of the opportunities when they did have it. So it was great to see Ben Skronik. We know what he can do on special teams, so not surprised that he took part in that play, too. But to be able to get it back in the hands of Aaron Rodgers, obviously it worked out for them very well. And it is something that maybe, you know, with all of the big free agent signings, trades, and whatnot this offseason, Kenneth Gainwell might not be very high on someone's list of people they were looking forward to see. But I think being involved in the run game, the pass game, and special teams like that, it's great to see and a very welcome addition.
And a very affordable price, too, although that price may go up after this year based on what he's done. But the other part of this is having Chris Boswell. And, you know, I asked Mike Tomlin about how far his, you know, I'm sure Boswell, every time they get across midfield, is saying, Coach, I can kick it. Let me go. He had from 60. That could have been good from 70. It's amazing how the amount, we're talking about length of field. It's not just him, but around the league. We saw the kid in Jacksonville, Cam Little, with a 70-yarder. Do you expect that to continue? And what do you think is his distance that Mike Tomlin will allow him to, knowing that if you sacrifice the ball, if you miss, you give the other team a very good field position. But if it's 65.
He could definitely hit it from 65.
Would you do it early in the game?
If it was like going into halftime and there was no chance of them, you know, doing much with it. But I don't think we're going to see a Jacksonville situation like we were there in the preseason. I mean, that's a preseason type kick. That's not something I think you do in crunch time. I don't know. Maybe we will see it, but Boz is cool, calm, and collected on that sideline. I mean, he doesn't even pay attention. He just goes through his warm-up routine. And as Coach said, sometimes he just walks on the field because he knows he's up. He doesn't even make eye contact
doesn't
with
check,
them.
just
Right,
goes.
yeah, just he knows.
All right, you got to say, whoa, sick 'em, that kind of thing, right? Whoa, come back, Boz, we're going to go for it. No. All right, we'll take a break here and we'll wrap it up. And also when we come back, quick note about Jalen Ramsey and the game he performed last week. We'll talk about that next right here on KDK Plus and Steeler Digital platforms.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
It is picked off. What a catch! Wow! Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers!
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
Obviously, Boz hit a hell of a kick. 5 finishing the way he did. To finish it with the defense on the field is nice.
Amen. Getting pretty chippy at times there. We're hoping the rookie stuff first half, especially.
Oh yeah, I think that was pretty obvious. I think just going up against a team for the first time, going up against each other a lot in training camp. It was just fun to get out there and go up against a good team. And obviously, I got chippy at times, but overall, I think we were pretty smart.
TJ, what were you guys able to do on that final possession by the Jets? I mean, it looked a lot different than the previous one.
I just felt like blood in the water. We knew they were one-dimensional. We wanted to get after them as best we could, and we did a good job of it.
Did you feel like I know you have to be disappointed about the way they ran the ball on you guys today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they had over 100 yards at halftime. That's obviously not acceptable, especially we knew that was the game plan coming into it. But it's early in the season. We just need to watch tape, get better, and move on.
How nice is it, though, to win this way, to start the season the way you guys won, maybe in the dramatic fashion?
It's huge. I mean, hats off to the offense, hats off to Boz. We got to play better as a defense.
What were you guys able to do on that final possession by the Jets that was a little bit different than the game?
Yeah.
TJ called it like blood in the water.
Yeah.
You made them one-dimensional.
Yeah, basically that's what it is. We made them one-dimensional that, Fields had to actually drop back and pass the ball. They did a great job all game is controlling the clock and keeping himself in manageable downs. We just got to do better, get that team behind the sticks.
How about how Jalen was able to force the ball out there at the very end?
Oh, yeah. That's why he's one of the best in the game. Jay be doing this for a long time, and man, he came up big when we needed him.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
All right, before we go, we certainly cannot not talk about number 5, Jalen Ramsey. He was all over the place. You saw it firsthand. Mike Tomlin said they used him that way, and they certainly did in this game, which led to a bone-crushing hit at the end.
Yeah, and Jalen said this is the first time in one game he's played every position in the secondary. Of course, when Joey Porter Jr. went out, he kind of took over that corner spot on the outside, but also brought, some animosity, some
passion, a lot of
passion. That's a good way to put it, but it worked out.
And it certainly goes around in that locker room. They feed off of that passion.
Absolutely,
for sure.
And I think kind of what he did going into the half, almost, lit up the defense a little bit, and they came out in the second half, and we saw how it finished.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. Missy, thanks as always. Appreciate it, and we'll do it again next week. Steelers and Seattle Sunday at 1. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.